Yes, hello. My name is Søndergaard. I'm from 3shape, and I would like to talk about how we can use the model basically developed by Token in our production setup and development setup, and what actually inspired us to start this project. So briefly about 3shape, we're a company situated in Copenhagen, and we produce these intraoral scanners. And an intraoral scanner is it creates a 2D mesh, a 3D mesh image of your teeth. And you do that basically by sticking the scanner here. It's about, 20 centimeters long. You put it into your mouth and you move it around like a toothbrush. And then it creates a 3D model of your teeth. And it doesn't radiate. It just uses visible light, so it's completely harmless. So that is sort of our main product. I am the lead of a team of about 10 people doing machine learning and algorithm development. And I have a background in math and auditory modeling. So I've been working with hearing aids previously. And for the last couple of years, I've been in 3shape working with teeth. So I'll just go through what a clear aligner treatment is, a little bit more details than what Token did. So if you didn't get it the first time, I hope I can introduce it to you. So the idea is it's an orthodontic treatment. So it moves your teeth. It could be if you have problems chewing, or it could also simply be that you want to look more pretty. So you want to straighten up your teeth so they look nice. And the idea is that you have a plastic aligner, as it's called. It's just made of transparent plastic. You put it into your mouth, you change it every 2 weeks, and then it will slowly move your teeth until they're in position. The benefit of it is, of course, that it's transparent. So when it's sitting in your mouth, then most people won't notice that you're actually wearing it, as opposed to the braces that you're used to seeing. And also you can take it out when you're eating. So there's no restrictions on what you can do and cannot do, because you just take it out and eat, and then clean your teeth and put it back in. And in 3shape, we create the scanner that I mentioned before that you need in order to create these 3D objects, create the aligner, and we also make the software that a doctor or a dental lab can use to create a complete aligner treatment. So why are we interested in this project? Well, to better talk about that, I'll first explain how the brachial braces treatment works. So these are the braces that has been used in the industry for about 100 years. And the way you work with them is that first you position what's called the brace. So it's these square metal things. You glue them onto your teeth, and then you connect them with a wire called the arch wire. And the trick is that the arch wire has a certain shape. And when you bend it out of shape, it will try to return to that shape. So you place the brackets in the way that you want your teeth to look and put in the wire. And then the wire, because it wants to return to its original position, will pull your teeth until they're sitting perfectly. And they're quite strong. If you are not careful, don't go to see your doctor, then the wire can actually pull teeth out of your mouth if you leave them in for months. But people don't do that. That's why you have to see a doctor. So you go in and see a doctor every 6 weeks or so, and he looks at how your teeth are. And then he might decide to change the wire, he might adjust the brackets and so on. And in that way, the doctor sort of steers the treatment. He has an initial idea of where he wants to go, places the brackets, but then he adjusts it on the way. So that way, it's a completely analog workflow, and it's worked very well for many, many years. The downside is actually that you have to wear these metal things in your mouth. So therefore, these clear aligner treatments are gaining more and more traction, becoming more and more popular. Now, the thing here, I've put up the workflow for clear aligner treatment. So first you do is you scan your patient. So you get a 3D scan, like you can see here on top. And then you put the scan into a 3D design software. In that software, you move the teeth a little bit. So you make a digital model of each tooth and move it a little bit. to the position where you'd expect the teeth to be in 14 days time. Then you 3D print your teeth, and then you can vacuum form an aligner. So the aligner is created from these clear round sheets of plastic. So you 3D print the teeth, put the heated plastic on top, and vacuum form them. And then after that, you can cut out the aligner from the plastic tray, And you basically repeat this process for every aligner. So an aligner is about 2 weeks, and a treatment is typical, 6 months or something. So in the end, you might have 20 aligners or something. For a long treatment, it can be 50. For a short, it can be 7. It depends on how much your teeth should move. So the dental lab creates all these aligners, puts them in a box, and sends them off to the patient. And then the patient changes the aligners every 2 weeks. And of course, you also go and see the doctor from time to time. That sounds very nice, but there's a catch. The thing is that the aligners are not as strong as the brackets. So the aligner will move the teeth until it fits with the position that it was designed in. But when the teeth are almost there, then the aligner is almost not providing any force, meaning that it can't push the teeth anymore, because there has to be some kind of force to stimulate the bone changements. So the end result is that the aligners are not as effective as you would believe them to be. Perhaps they don't move the teeth 100%, but only 80% of the way. And the problem is really in how we designed the aligner, because we designed the aligner to where we want the tooth to be, so based on a position, but we didn't design the aligner based on the force that we want to deliver. Another example is that you might want to move one of the molars, kintinner, in your mouth, and that requires a very strong force. But if you only want to move it a little bit, then the plastic deformation is very, very tiny, and the force might not even be strong enough to move the molars. And the braces don't have that problem. The arch wire is plenty strong to do all this. So that is basically the problem when designing these treatments, that we would like to design for a force and not a position. So this is why we initiated this project, because we make the design software, and we would like to help our designers in the dental labs do this in an easy way, so they can design a aligner treatment that works well. Of course, the patient will still come in, so even if you're off track, the dentist can correct it. But we would like fewer corrections, and easier way of designing it. But this is not super easy. As Torben mentioned, I mean, people are different. We have individual biology. Some people's teeth move very fast. Some people's teeth move slow. The biology is complex. You have these 3D shapes of teeth and bone. You have diseases. The biology around the teeth is non-linear. You have to exert a certain amount of force, and then suddenly things starts moving, but it's not clear how fast they're moving, when they're moving, and so on. And you can't just test your idea out on a human, because the treatment itself is physically altering your bone. So it's not something that you just play around with. You can't make a test of yourself. I mean, if you're designing a web page, you can look at the web page and click the buttons, but we can't just make all the fun tests we would like on people, because we would destroy their teeth. And of course, you can scan with an X-ray scanner. That will give you a very, very good overview of the bone, but it will also radiate the patient, right? So this is not something we can just do every day for a month and then follow the teeth nicely. This is something that you do once when you start the treatment, and only if you have ethical approval for it. There has to be a reason for taking such a scan. So these are basically our challenges, and these are the reasons why we would like to have a model that we can work with instead of doing tests that way. So this is our workflow and how we envision to use a mathematical model of teeth. So it consists of these stages here. So first off, the first goal is to develop a mathematical model of how teeth move when pressure is applied. Then we have a model of the biology. The next component is to develop a model of the aligner. So how does the aligner deform, and which pressure does it apply to the teeth? So you can easily see that if you have these two models together, how the teeth move under pressure and how the aligner applies pressure to the teeth and moves. Then when you put them together, then you have the whole system moving. You can see how the aligner moves the teeth and vice versa. But that is not the product we're selling. I mean, 3shape is selling design software. So how to actually make your treatment. So the third step is then done by 3shape. So the idea is that we develop an automatic strategy for how to create an aligner for a given patient. So we come up with some proposal using our engineering knowledge and everything, and then we test it. So we put our proposal into the model and see what actually happens. Then we can evaluate the test strategy, and then we can go back and try another test strategy or adjust it based on the output from the model until we're satisfied. And that is much, much faster, because now we can test against the model. If we didn't have the model, we would have to start a clinical trial. So we would basically have to go to step 6 to see if things worked out. But because we have a model, then we can do this a much more rapid iteration of it. Step 6 here is still needed. So after we've tested using model, after we design a good strategy, then in order to launch our product, then we will start a clinical trial and try out the strategy together with a number of dental labs and doctors and see if it works. And then only if it works, when it has been validated in humans, then we can actually launch the product. And the final step is then, it's then possible for a clinical person to publish the final study of how well did our product do in a real-world test. So this is the way that we would like to work with the model. And this is actually, in general, what companies do when working with these models. So here it's the exact same slide. I just wrote company R&D instead of 3shape. So this is the workflow that is used, for instance, in the hearing aid industry, and which has also been used by mobile phone companies and so on. So you develop two models. One is the human biology, and the other one is your device. Perhaps the model of the device is developed by the company, perhaps by computer science people. It depends a little bit. If your medical device is very complex, then perhaps it's the company that developed it. In this case, it's just a piece of plastic. So it's developed by students. And then the company does steps 3 and 4. When you first look at step 1 and 2 and you say, okay, we have these two models, then an intuitive and obvious idea is saying, why don't we just reverse it? Because we know how the models, what they do, and we know where we want to end up. So we just calculate backwards. You could do that, perhaps just having the models. But that is not the strategy presented here. And the whole crux of it is that generally the company does not want to just invert the model, because we know the models are not necessarily the whole truth. There might be a lot of approximations, there might be a lot of things they don't take into considerations and so on. So it's not safe in just trusting the inverse of a model. So that's actually why it's done this way, to develop a strategy which is safe. Safe is a word meaning that the treatment doesn't harm the patient. When you devise a treatment, it has to be safe and effective. Safe means that it doesn't harm the patient, and effective means that it actually helps the patient in overcome whatever the problem was. So the usual joke is that if you want to cure cancer, the fastest way is just killing the patient. Then you have immediately cured the cancer, but that is not safe. So that's why you always need your treatment to be both safe and effective. And by following this workflow, then you can start with a strategy that is inherently safe, and then you can see if you can optimize it to be more effective. And I think that's why the companies often follows this development workflow that is mentioned here, because you get safety as a built-in thing. Yeah, so that is how to define it. Use models to make safe and effective treatments. And then it's the same. You always need to validate your medical device, and if you want to, then you can try to publish the results in the end. And the company slogan, let's change dentistry together.